right now from a supplier that we've been doing business with for several years. These machines actually produce that chlorine using a small expenditure on salt. So it turns rock salt basically into chlorine. This would make us completely self-sufficient in any type of emergencies, or somebody couldn't get up the hill to deliver chlorine to us, especially when you count that when we have larger scale emergencies, you know, we need a lot of chlorine to, you know, put into water mains and things like that. So past that, it also produces a 0.8% sodium hypochlorite concentration, which is less than the EPA's hazardous material requirement of 1%. And one of the things, if we were to stay with the 12.5%, that we would need to do is some safety upgrades to meet EPA standards for that 12.5%. So.
Thank you.
Director, where are we going? Director Doolittle.
Hi, I had several questions. One question I had on page 18, I don't think you talked about the efficiency study. You skipped over it and went to Iowa.
Yeah, that was actually something that was listed for the previous year. It didn't roll over into the 21-22 year.
Okay.
However, we did expend those monies on GeoViewer upgrades throughout the year, along with pulling some money out of what was it? Cassell billing system.
Right.
Yeah.
And okay, thank you. And then I have a question regarding the solar feasibility. That's $15K that's allocated for the study. But it seems to me that we should be able to get that study and then take some action. I guess it would be in the following fiscal year. You know, let's talk about 2022, that we should be able to be in a position to purchase. And I'm just wondering why I'm not, would that be coming after the study where we'd have the estimates?
Yeah, I mean, I would think that Kevin would probably take somewhere on the order. There's a lot of Edison information to go through, so he would probably be somewhere on the order of 3 to 4 months if we got this started right at the beginning of the fiscal year. And so if the district was to identify, you know, the ability to move forward with something like that, we could consider it as part of our mid-year budget or something too. So.
Yeah, that's something I'd like to see. Let me see, what else did I have? I'm having a hard time understanding the cost of projects overall. And this is Tilford or Saddleback. So I'd still like to see some sort of a project visual or something like that. And, you know, like on a timeline and something that shows me the overall costs for the project.
As far as like a breakdown between material and labor and things like
No,
that?
no, I mean, that'd be fine if it went that deep, but I just don't understand. So are we saying that we spent such and such already on Saddleback? And is it saying that right now? Is that what?
Yeah, so the cost that's listed.
These are all budgets. These are not actual costs,
Okay.
but we obviously we had to adjust there. We had 800,000 in 2020, 2021 initially, and as that project, the timing got pushed, 200,000 of it is now in the mid 2020, 2021 budget, and 800,000 remains in the, I'm sorry, we're talking about Tilford, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, 800,000 remains in 21, 22. So these are all budgets. We are adjusting based on what actual spending whenever we can. So that's possible that mirrors what we've spent already. Let me look at my other report that had the year-to-date activity in it, and I can tell you a little bit more about that.
And one of the reasons why we pushed that budget over too, so you can see in the 2021 year, we had $800,000 listed. And like Ann said, we spent 200,000 of that this year on material because we haven't done a lot of work up there at Tilford yet. And the reason why that budget continued to be $800,000 next year was the anticipation of an increase in price, again, because of distribution and availability of parts and material. I'm getting a lot of line letters that say a lot of our pipe and fittings are going up anywhere from 25 to 55% for next year. So some
Yeah,
of them.
so I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So as of 3/31, the actual expenditures were 129,000, and we budgeted anticipating that 200,000 would be sufficient for this year, and then, like Mark was saying, pushed the 800,000 forward to 21-22.
Okay. And then I don't understand what codification of record is. Thank you, Ann.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to address that, Mark, or should I attempt?
Oh, if you want to, go ahead.
So this was a project that Susan was heading before she left. It was the effort to get all of our records into one place. So all of our resolutions and ordinances and rules and regs, all of that into one place so that we have a codified history of all of those actions. And I believe Beverly has taken over that project now. So as far as I understand, the majority of it was done before Susan left, but now the verification has to take place. So I think that's where we stand with that. And they billed us a little bit up front, but they haven't billed us since then. So it seems that they're going to do that at a later point in time.
The project should be completed by November of this year.
November.
One of the good things too about that is that when we're done, we'll be able to put that online on our website, and you'll be able to click on any one of those items and get the full history of all the history with all of our resolutions and rules and regs and all that.
Tom has a question.
President Unger,
Vice President Flowen.
am I also remembering that in essentially recodifying these documents, where if we are adding a section to something, that it's going to be easier to track the numbering on these sections and subsections of subsections and that. Do I remember that?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
That's part of it. That was part of it too.
Yes, the major part of it, yes.
Okay.
It's a huge project. It really is. And
Very large.
yeah, it's a cleanup operation and making intelligence out of all these things, putting them where you can find them.
Susan and I have actually been working on this since the beginning of the year. It's just taken since last year. It's taken a long time.
Is that Beverly talking?
I think so. Way out there.
It's not on here, the mystery voice.
Mark and I are sharing a camera tonight. So
Okay.
sorry if you can't hear me, but yeah, the project should be finished in November. Right now, it's with the codification attorneys, and they're going through making sure all of our wording on the resolutions is correct, and whatever examples or briefs that we have to go with the resolution are included. They're just going through everything. And that's why it's taking so long. Is that it?
Yes. Anything else?
No, that's all right now. I have something else. I just want to, will we be able to discuss things that are not in the budget? Do we discuss that I don't see here, or will we see that at the budget workshop?
Are you talking about like our operating budget, you mean, that's not listed here, or?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, at the time when the directors can share what they want to share, I'll share it then.
I think this was Mark's capital projects kind of agenda. This
Right.
hasn't come before the finance committee either. So we haven't seen this either. I'm imagining that the budget workshop next week is going to be pretty intense.
It's all of it.
President Unger, I have some comments.
Yeah, Director Doolittle, are you done?
Yes, I'm done.
Yeah, go ahead, Director Jarlsberg. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. I had a couple of general questions about the report format. And I guess they're kind of for Anne. One of the things that I'm a little frustrated with is the fact that the report doesn't extend the names. There's all these, where it cuts short as ... And we have to kind of guess what those ... mean. Isn't there some way to extend the report so that all the print is there?
The
And-
actual report has about 10 columns on it, I believe. So if you look at the Finance Committee packet, you can see the report with all the columns. Thus, the descriptions are truncated. So in this case, we just blanked out those additional columns that were not up for discussion. But there's not really an option in the reporting to extend that description column.
Oh,
What I usually do
that
for
happens in the
in the
check
software.
register too.
Yeah, exactly. What I usually do for the final presentation budget, the one that everybody gets in a nice packet, a nice bound packet, I usually export that out to Excel and manually, make it pretty. So I could extend some of those there, but honestly, some of these don't have much more of a description in the software because we're also limited in the number of characters that we can use there.
Right. Okay, well, I gathered that, but there's some that I really had to guess at what it was.
Yeah.
The other kind of format thing that I'm interested in, and maybe we can discuss this at the budget workshop, the term mid-year is a little misleading because that figure is not actually only what's been used in the by the middle of the year.
Right.
Sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. For instance, well 14 treatment. I think what you're saying there, 650,000 was proposed in the budget, and by mid-year, that 650,000 was spent.
No.
It seems like,
No, not correct. I'm sorry.
Well, that's what this is implying when it says mid-year. That's
This
why
is an adjusted budget. We are adjusting, proposing to adjust the budget at mid-year, but you're correct. Our term mid-year doesn't really reflect the middle of the year. It's just a term that we have always used for our review of the existing year's budget. This particular, these reports were actually run at March 31st, so that puts them at 3/4 of the year. So you're correct about that. But again, remember that this is all, these are all budget figures. So there's nothing on here that reflects what we've actually spent other than what we've taken and projected out a new budget with.
Well, I think
makes
I'd
sense.
just like a little more explanation what the mid-year column refers to, because it is a little confusing.
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
So if you look
But
for
like
example,
I'm saying, that could be a discussion during the workshop.
oh, okay, sure,
Yeah.
I can give that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then a couple of follow-up from what Stacy was saying. Let's see. Oh, the sufficiency study, 50,000 was budgeted, and then 0 at mid-year. Was 50,000 spent, or did it just disappear? We're not going to use that 50 on the efficiency study.
That's correct. We did not spend any money on that study, and we have not, but we've adjusted the budget down to 0 at mid-year.
So we're not going to, I mean, that study isn't happening?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. And then codification, when I worked for the little city, we paid a company to essentially do what you're talking about. And it was fairly pricey, but very useful because then we were able to access it on our website. But how does this relate to the digitizing of all the physical records, which is happening also?
That's
Right?
part of that.
I think it's the
Is
same.
that part of this codification?
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Is it done by the same company? Is that it? Okay, all right. And then I think this number for the Tilford is a little confusing also because it seems to me that the budget for 21-22 would be $1 million, not 800, because you've spent 200. I don't know. It's confusing there. So some of this stuff I'd like to be able to talk about at the budget workshop.
Okay. We'll talk about that. That's a timing issue. So basically we're saying that we anticipate spending 200,000 now by the end of 2021
Right.
and 800,000 in
100,000
21-22.
next year.
Correct. That's correct. Yes,
So somehow it adds up to $1 million.
that's correct. Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Okay.
Between the
All
2
right.
years, it does. But we can talk more about that.
Okay. That's kind of my muddling. Thank you.
The budget stuff is, I don't know how Ann does it. I do not know. It's tricky.
Well, I've
And,
done a little bit of this. That's why I'm muddling. Because every company does it different, it seems.
That's right.
It's been a real exercise for me because normally I would want to just have my eyes glaze over when I start seeing figures and zeros and decimal points and stuff. So it's been, I really appreciate trying to understand this because there's a lot to it. And I think something that Director Doolittle was asking was about the Saddleback project. I don't know if she got that answered. I think Director Doolittle was wanting to know like how much we spent on Saddleback, the total cost, Mark, what we had budgeted for that and what we actually ended up spending, because now we have finished the Saddleback project.
Do you have those actual expenditures, Ariane? No.
Oh, we would want to do, well, we need to do an allocation of our CIRP costs after the final costs come in. And then we could put that information together. What I had estimated though for, as far as what we've spent so far, what's been allocated to the project so far, well, okay, this is only a portion of it, so I apologize. That's not really going to get us to that figure that Stacy wants, but there is about 750,000 of that project that's going to be reimbursable from the water capacity fund. That is not the total of the project, and we would have to get you that information. It's going to be a little bit of reconciliation work.
Right, and there are things like the wages, the labor, everything from benefits, all the costs that go into that. I know it's a pretty vast thing. So, do I have any other question on Mark's capital budget here this evening? How about from the non-board directors?
President Unger, could I just make one last comment?
Let me see first. Since I opened it up, anyone out there? I see I have Citizen Advisory Council people there. Anyone have any questions on this?
I will. Yeah, no. Let me follow up with something that occurred in the CAC meeting last night about. I understood that we were not moving forward because we lacked planning, and I would like to understand Is the reason behind that because the planning stage costs money and it's not budgeted yet? Does that make sense?
And moving forward with what, Karen? What planning?
The wastewater treatment.
Yeah, I'm waiting to get a couple more budgetary numbers in from a couple different more engineering firms before we put that in. But by the time we hit the workshop next week, we'll have that number available.
I think that answers my question. We spent some time trying to approach details regarding the wastewater treatment strategy, and it seemed that we had been designated a certain portion of sanitation, wastewater treatment from LAFCO, and in order to move forward with the designation that we had, because it wasn't complete, it didn't go far enough. We're not just looking for temporary solutions, we're looking for an actual strategy that will get us to the completion. And I asked a question about moving forward. What was that going to take? How do we get the complete designation? And you said we just start working on it. We just start the planning and move forward, and LAFCO falls in place. The LAFCO piece falls in place. So we're looking at now getting those numbers from whoever those engineering firms are to plug in, and that begins the planning process. That's my question.
Is that, Mark, is that part of your capital budget, or would that be in the CAC's report tonight?
That would be in the CAC.
Yeah, more than likely in the CAC report.
Okay, let's take it there, Karen.
Okay.
And we'll get it in the CAC report.
Okay.
Director Jarlsberg.
Yeah, I just had one last comment.
Yes.
Part of the reason I'm asking these questions about the budget format is because I'm anticipating hopefully the public will be able to understand it when they look at it. And so if I don't understand it, I have a feeling that it's going to be confusing to the public. So that's part of it, Anna. That's, okay.
Understood. Yeah.
Anything else on the proposed capital expenditures? This was for information only. Thank you, Mark. Oh, you're up again. General manager report.
All right, one more screen share here. If I can get to it quicker. Adobe. Where's that? Sure. Can everybody see the map there?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a heat map that I put together of our last 2 years worth of meter sales, and the concentration of kind of where they're at in the district. You can see it's kind of all over the place. I think this is about 80 of them that were put into this model anyway that I put in there, with I think about 60 of those actually being purchased this year. So huge increase in development, and shows you that there's development across the board when it comes to exactly where folks are building. So just a good graphic, I think, that we can continue to add to moving forward, just to get an idea of where the development's occurring.
Wow.
And then past that, as I had said, we're waiting on quite a few parts for well 14. There's a few things that the guys are still working on over there that we do have the parts in. Hopefully we're going to have our panels in from Sulzer, that's building our motor control center, and our meter section for Edison. Hopefully those will be in within the next couple of weeks, and we can start in on the electrical at least. So, but it's going to be pushing it to get it done during this year's budget, waiting on some of these parts. So, but trying our best, and that's it for me. Any other comments from staff at all?
Hey, Mark, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How many people are moving away from the wastewater charge fee of $6,000 when they're buying properties that are buying away so they get away from that fee?
So there's certain instances. The district, we used to have 3 different quotes or 3 different meter costs depending on where you built in the district. I believe right now we're down to 2. I believe right now, Ann, I think. The Copper Mountain Mesa, and then most of the rest of them are in the wastewater area. So when we look at that boundary for that wastewater capacity fee, that covers the downtown area and pretty much the breadth of our service district from east to west. Anybody that builds in that area is getting that extra $6,200 fee added on to the meter cost. If they build outside of that boundary, which is, just a little bit north of like Petunia going up Sunburst area, everything north of that is out of that wastewater treatment strategy area. And so they don't pay that $6,200 for the meter up in that area.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of the growth was out towards Tilford area, out towards border, quite north to the north end of the district.
Yeah, we had a lot of meters last year. Got kind of centered downtown there. You can see that on that map where it was a little bit brighter, but everything since then has been moving out towards the north end. More
Thank you.
in the downtown area.
Director Jarlsberg.
Mark, I wonder if I could see the map again. Is that a question?
Nope, that's an order.
Well, I can do it. It's in here. I can talk about it. I'm curious that he was saying that there is a cluster at the top, but what is the border of our district where there is a cluster? Is that Copper Mountain Mesa or is it above it?
Yeah, there's a few in there and there's a few above it as well up in this area that are right along the side of our district boundary. So this black line that you're seeing right here,
Yeah,
that's the district's actual service boundary right there.
right. But what's the street? Where is it?
All the way up on this end, that's kind of hard to see. I have to put it on a different map. Down on this end, it's easy to see. This is Monument Manor right here. So I would guess this is Sunburst right here. And so, Golden Border or Sunburst Golden Border going up in this area. So this is to the east of Border.
Well, I'm just curious. It's right apparently along the edge of the base.
Correct. Yep.
So I'm curious what street that is. That's seems to be attracting more attention. And also, I'm curious about these squares. I believe that they're sections. Is that the empty squares? And you actually have some cluster right on the edge of one of them. Are those BLM property or?
Those are BLM. Those are outside of they're not included in our service boundary. So.
Right, but it looks like it's kind of bleeding into one of those.
Yeah, it's a heat map, so it kind of grows with the amount of development. So there's probably 4 or 5 meters that were purchased in that area, right in that corner.
That where the bubble Airbnbs are going?
Possibly.
But I'm hoping that when we redo the map, that we can actually see what those streets are. I've been trying to explore them physically, with Tom's 4-wheel drive and Randy's 4-wheel drive. Haven't quite figured it out yet.
Yeah, the street names would be very helpful. And I'm trying to think, but it's not Giant Rock where.
Looking very quickly, it looks like it's a street called Montezuma right above Giant Rock, but I could be wrong. But that's what it looks like to me.
Is that Goobler's there? That white square kind of in the middle? Is that Goobler's section? Up a little higher. Isn't he up? He's up there getting up to Landers on Homestead.
Yeah, I think he's up towards the
Googler
and all that, right? So that's up in this area.
Yeah, he's further up. Okay, I guess I thought he was down here. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be the county, I think, service district W4, I think, or something like that. That's up there. W2.
What's that, Tom?
I think the street that would border the Marine base would be Ricci Road. And that white square, there's kind of like 2 of them connected at the corner. Those are a couple of areas that opted out of being in the water district. I think that's what those are.
Oh, okay. Not necessarily BLM then.
No.
Oh, okay.
Private holdings.
Okay. Thank you.
But
any other questions? Oh, go ahead, Tom.
we can, I think I owe Jane a trip in the Jeep, and we can certainly go up there and explore that. I've already got an agenda for our next trip. Maybe next week.
Any other questions for Mark? Hearing none on this. Mark, what else do you have tonight?
That's good for me. We're ready to go.
Okey doke. We'll let you take your map down. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Uh-huh.
It's good to see the heat map kind of look of that. And it just, the development is asymmetrical. It's all over the place. And, you know, it's hard to keep some kind of watch on it. And we'll have to see. We'll just have to see here. Director meeting reports. Kathleen Radnich, what do you have for us tonight? Public information.
Well, the wild crafting 4-part course, we have 2 dates left, the 21st and the 28th. This Friday being the 21st, we're covering invasive plants as being important because the native plants compete for water with invasive plants, and the invasive plants are taking over the area and creating a fire hazard throughout the community. So we teach on it and hope people can identify what doesn't belong here and help remove it so that we don't spend water on fire defense. Then summarizing class, that was last night and it went very well. It's a repeat course in demand, and so people trying to fix their water systems for free instead of calling an expert in. And quite frankly, we don't have many experts out here, so this is well received. Also, coming up in June, the xeriscaping class, that's June 10th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. It's in all the information's in the main newsletter. Also, as I mentioned in the last meeting, May is Water Awareness Month, and I just completed a presentation this morning with the Joshua Tree Rotary Club talking about all our conservation efforts for Joshua Basin. And I made sure they understood that when we run these classes, they're open to the whole area, everywhere, not just Joshua Tree customers. And that was well received. Our docent annual meeting, which usually happens in winter, due to during COVID, we moved it and we're doing it outdoors this Friday at 5 p.m. Oh, sorry, this Thursday at 5 p.m. outside in the garden, weather permitting. And the farmers market, right now we've got a real showstopper there. We've got our tortoise out and we're seriously popular. Apparently, the radio station had a slow news day because they promoted it, that we have a tortoise at the market, and boy, were we busy. Oh, yes. And then, of course, we're teaching about water conservation using the tortoise, so it all works. Lastly, the garden tours, the volume for requests is increasing. I think part of that has to do with all our classes are really generating interest in native plant gardening and water-wise gardening. And it also has to do with people are moving here and they just want to be, you know, they want to get a grip on how to live out here. So I do want to tell you, I took Sam White and his landscape contractor this past week through the garden. And when we were done, they actually wanted to roll out their blueprints, which we went in the boardroom and did, and they started making some corrections. So the garden was very instrumental in helping to guide the landscaping design of a new development, and that's a good thing. And I think that's true with a lot of our tours, but this one I knew for a fact because I watched them change out plants that they were going to use. And then BLMs, for the moment, on the same day, decided it was time to take a tour and see what they invested their money in. And that went well. In fact, they came, took pictures of all the signs for the wildcrafting tutorial, and I think we scored a big 10. They loved the garden. They had no idea it was that far, I guess,
grown. I don't think they pictured something so lush. And right now it is lush. So it was great timing, and that is my report, unless there are any questions. Thank
And
you.
Kathleen, I think we have a Public Information Committee meeting on June 2nd.
Yes, but that is listed on the agenda, so I didn't bring it up. Yes.
Any questions for Kathleen? Moving on to Mojave Water Agency Board of Directors meeting on April 22nd. Director Jarlsberg, take it away.
Oh, nuts. I wasn't going to take it away because Director Mike attended a week later and he's supposed to report on it. I thought he did.
That's okay.
Anyway, I do have notes. I did attend the meeting.
Okay.
But it was like a month ago, so forgive me.
Yeah.
Let's see, I think the main thing was adoption of their strategic plan, which had been in the works for a while. They had revised the draft, considering all the comments from previous months from the directors, and they made editorial corrections. And they were ready to, let's see, they made some comments about it, but I really thought Mike would tell us that they had passed it, or what did it look like?
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know what came out of it other than I think the draft was approved and was going to go on. And so it should be available next time we check in. There was quite a bit of comment, which has been happening recently, about illegal water use. And that's coming up a lot. And I'm really hoping that we will eventually be able to discuss it ourselves, relating to the marijuana grows and any other illegal water use that we're discovering. But the marijuana grows, I guess, are the big deal now.
Well, the radio station had pictures and a list of about, 15 or something of the recent busts. And the news release that came out today from the county, they're proposing $10.4 million in funding to take on the vacation home rental problems and all those illegal pot farms.
Right.
It's a problem up and down the desert, everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's just...
and the MAP meeting was big on that too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know people are in the Mojave. They come from all over their area, and they're seeing it everywhere. So it's a real problem.
It'll be on a future agenda. I think I did talk to Mark about that.
Okie dokie. The Mojave meeting in the 6th, Mike was not here tonight. The special finance meeting, just was it a week or so ago? A couple weeks ago, Director Flowen. We did go, started to do a budget kind of reconnoiter, and looked at a lot of stuff. Tom, anything you want to add that stuck out to you to bring up?
No, I always defer to you on these things because as a former news reporter.
I'm getting meetinged out. I can't believe it. I'm finally getting meetinged out. But we spent about a half an hour. We had a couple of items on that agenda, and the budget is certainly the most important thing. I think that at the budget workshop coming up next month, all will be revealed.
Yes, ma'am. I did go through my notes on that, and they're as terrible as usual. And my memory being what it is, I'm going to have to use the Jane rule on this. And
so I thought you were going to talk about it. Yeah.
Well, we did thoroughly go through the check register on that. I'd always like to emphasize to folks that we do a thorough examination of that check register and ask a lot of questions on it. One of the things I brought up, which is relevant to what Stacy was talking about earlier was that in the check register, we saw an awful lot of entries for our projects, in particular the Tilford project, and a lot of money going out for that. And then also there's a slight notation about where that money went for, item by item. And so it does suffer, as Jane would say, from the abbreviation sickness on the entries. But after a while, you kind of get to know what those things are, and you can kind of figure out what they are. But and I think I made a comment at the meeting about how we are moving aggressively on those projects because we see the evidence in the spending. Thank you.
That's a good point. No, that's a very good point. Citizens Advisory Council, May 18th, Barbara Delph, chairperson.
Well, the meeting wasn't that long because we only had one agenda item because it was an important one, but unfortunately Mike Metz from Dudek did not show. He was a no-show for the review of the wastewater treatment report. Therefore, there was no new update and there was no review that was warranted. General Manager Band discussed the topic with the CAC and kind of wanted our opinions on whether or not we felt we should go forward without further discussion of that report. And it was the general consensus by most of the CAC that we should just move beyond the Dudek's report and just go forward. Then we had a discussion with General Manager Ban, and we discussed, a lot of points about the wastewater treatment strategy. And one thing we did discuss is something Karen brought up was the requirements that we would have to go through with LAFCO and how to go forward with the wastewater treatment plan. Mark said that we really needed more info from an engineering report and to help us with the actual planning project and to move forward. So we're kind of waiting on that, and that's kind of where we're at right now. We're at a standstill. And since that was the only agenda item, the meeting was basically adjourned because there was nobody to discuss it that was present from Dudek. So that was basically it.
Karen, did you get your questions answered? Where is Karen? You still here? Karen, did you get your questions answered, or did you still have something else you wanted to add or ask?
Questions answered. They will be more fully developed and answered completely when the engineering numbers come in so we can begin progress.
Thank you. Any questions for the Citizens Advisory Council? I see Director Jarviswood. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Barb, I wonder if any public was there besides the members.
Yes, Donald Henry was there, and the only reason I didn't go over his comment was because we all heard it tonight, so I didn't want to be redundant.
Just curious. Thank you.
Thank you. And Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO, that was me this morning. And in typical county fashion, they went right into a closed session. And I thought, okay, well, I'll come back in. I came back in after an hour and they were still in closed session. And I said, the heck with you. The one thing I was really wanted to hear, I found out they are continuing it to the July meeting. And that has to do with the review of the FP5, that fire protection district that was enacted on us that we're all paying on our property taxes. And they were supposed to be doing a review on how effective it's been, how the money's been spent, was it worth it? Where is it? What's its future? And it was a temporary tax. And so that was the one thing I was really interested in hearing. And that one will be continued to the July meeting. So I'm not sure who's on LAFCO that day, but I'm going to zoom into that one, that's for sure. Okie doke, now is the time for board members to make general comments concerning district business only. Director Doolittle, you're listed first.
Yes, I'd like to comment on the website. I think the website looks great. All the new work that's been done on it, it really looks great and it is updated. But I have some concerns about it, and that's why I was wondering when we were talking about the capital projects, whether or not work on the website would fall under that. And what my concern is that it seems that staff is doing the work on the website and that there's not enough time to do work on the website and that it's causing some stress. I've just picked up on this the few times I've queried. And so what I'd like to see is that there be, somebody hired for a short time to clean up the website and take care of some of these things that are falling by the wayside. And the reason I think this is important is we want to drive our customer base to the website, and people are used to now using websites to figure out things. And we don't want to have dated information on there or dead links or things like that I have found. And I would prefer to have a situation where I could send my comments to someone who is dedicated to working on it, and it's not taking time away from employees that are already overworked.
I would agree. I think we're short-staffed. We'll see what the budget holds. Thank you. Director Jarlsberg, what do you got?
Well, following on what she's saying, I agree with very much. There should be someone assigned other than the normal staff. Actually, under the, probably, I think Sarah was the one that's kind of overseeing it, but she would oversee that person, I would guess. One of my concerns is that we are supposed to be having videos of previous meetings. And I can't even find any on Bob Stevenson's YouTube channel that have anything to do with Joshua Tree. He's doing the Yucca Valley city council meetings now, and they go up like within a day or two. And I actually sent him a question about where are all the Joshua Tree ones that he's recorded. Can't seem to find them. And then eventually we're supposed to have a link to the website also. Anyway, I'm concerned about the videos. I'm a videographer. It's kind of in my mind all the time. So that's part of it. The other thing is that we attempted, Rebecca and I attempted to attend the ACWA conference, which was plagued by IT problems. Apparently it wasn't ACWA, it was that company. I looked up, they charged $60,000 or some ridiculous amount, a lot of money to run those conferences online, and they totally flubbed it. Maybe it's 30,000, but anyway, it was a lot of money.
Oh my God.
They say that it'll all be available to watch later.
Yeah.
I think next week is supposed to be available. Very frustrating. I did the same thing on that morning of the conference. They kept saying, it'll be up in a half an hour, it'll be up, blah, blah, blah. I kept coming back. But finally, the end of the day, we did have a Zoom meeting with the women, though, which was totally wonderful. Totally wonderful. And the women that are running water districts and on boards and on staff around California are awesome. And one of the little features for this, I'm looking forward to doing in person eventually. One of the things they did is had a breakout at the end of the little get together by Zoom. Zoom worked fine. They had a breakout of 10 people, so we got to actually meet people. And I met a woman who is now in Mendocino County running a small water district who congratulated me when I said I was a new water board member in Joshua Tree. She said, I'm from 29 Palms, so it was weird. Oh my God, it's a small world. I knew where Brook Trails is. And anyway, it was just really fun meeting other really go-getter women in a kind of a male-run industry. So that was exciting. And then I hope to be able to look in on some of those things that were recorded. I attempted to look at something today, and it was like screenshots or something. It wasn't really I don't know. Anyway, I'll keep looking at it. But I'm wondering how if we get paid for trying to attend something. I just curious. I'm not to if I'm not, but, I'm just curious how that works.
Vice President Flowen, what do you have?
Oh, nothing particularly dynamic. Just a comment about Kathleen Radnich. She mentioned that she did a tour, I think it was with BLM, of our garden. It's regarding some grants, I think, or a grant. And she commented on how impressed they were with the garden and how lush it was and all that. But what I also suspect too, I wasn't there, but I work with Kathleen on a regular basis, virtually every week at the market. And I can tell you that probably one of the reasons that they were impressed was because of Kathleen herself and the depth of knowledge that she has in all these subjects. Very broad. I watch her talk to people, so I know that. And I'm sure that one of the reasons that they were impressed with this district and our garden is because she was there giving the presentation. Just thought I'd mention that.
Oh, thank you. I believe you.
Thank you. I'm going to be training a whole cadre of people to do that, though, so we'll be in good shape.
President Unger, would it be okay or appropriate if I spoke to some of the questions about the website?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead, Sarah. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. I just want to give everybody a chance. I appreciate and agree we are working towards some strategies for future staffing. So thank you for acknowledging that, that we have some shortages, but we are working towards changing that. As for the website, I don't know that we have enough work for one person to actually do just the website. The website is a living document. It changes all the time. If you find broken links, please, feel free to send them to me. I'm happy to fix them as we are going through the meeting today. And I didn't have very much or anything to present tonight. That's what I'm working on. I'm going through finding all the links and I'm fixing them as I sit here and listen to everybody's comments. So I'm happy to help. Beverly and I work really hard to try to keep it up to date. And when you log on to the website or the very front page on the left-hand side, there's a button that says Facebook. There's a button that says YouTube. And I just clicked on that and it takes you to the very last meeting. So the meetings are there. We don't want to host them on our website because there's a lot of compliance issues with closed captioning that we don't have the staffing to do. So we let YouTube do that for us. But the last meeting is on there and it looks like all the other meetings are as well. So feel free to take a look and send me a message if you find something broken or needs to be updated.
I managed to pretty much get most of Aqua, but it was over several days. And some of the things, there's a lot of legislation and a lot of it has to do how we've been, meeting, remotely like this during COVID. And they're starting to knock down a whole bunch of these compliance things, about all the compliance stuff for websites, like different languages and all these things. They're starting to take that away. And so the stuff that has really been bedeviling on that, I think it's going to be easier to comply. They're dropping a lot of these really icky, wicky, picky compliance stuff. So hopefully these things will all get passed. And yeah, Jane, I'm so glad you went to Women in Water. I remember it was when it first started, and I was a new director, and the late Mickey Luckman said, "You've got to go to this. You got to go to this." And she loved Kathy Teagues, and she was I think she was the executive director or president of the Aqua Board at that time, and we met in a hotel room, where the meeting was, and everyone was crammed in this room. It was already packed, and every year it got big. Every whether it was the fall meeting or the spring meeting, it kept getting bigger. It was a bigger room. Then everyone's out in the hallway, down to the elevators. Men started coming. It was like one of the most popular things. And I'm glad it kept going. And there was a lot of things at Aqua, a lot of actually kind of good news. The drought, bad news. horrible, bad news. It's not good. But the good news is the money that's coming from the state and the feds, and even money that the governor is proposing to reimburse water agencies for delinquent water bills that they have incurred through having to comply, with COVID. And it was a SB 998 and everything. And so money is coming for that. Money is coming for projects that don't have to be shovel ready. They've learned a lot from when they tried to do this before. And there was one interesting keynote speaker. He was a guy who has a cybersecurity firm. He had just a brief presentation, and I think his company is called Applicology. He's an ex-CIA guy, and he talked about a couple of the hacks that were in the news. The Florida water treatment system hacked from a few months ago. He mentioned, they were using Windows 7, which had stopped being supported by that time and for its software. And so they were not getting any of the security updates. And he said, due to the pandemic, all their computers too were configured for remote access using something called TeamViewer, and all with the same password. He said, if you're going to do something like that, he said, make sure you have multi-factor logins, username, password, and at least a third identifier, which, a lot of sites I think that we go on, whether it's financial or something else, they ask you security questions. And he said, but the Colonial Pipeline with that ransomware, they were embedding encrypted files. So it just kept spreading and spreading. He talked about best practices, security hygiene. He said as privileged access management that goes from the most privileged, people who really need to be on just about everything, to the least, and to limit access to departments, where they're really not needed, which I think, it's kind of obvious, but maybe not. Maybe, some other people aren't even thinking that. He said that remote work opens security breaches, obviously. He said, especially when employees or others take their iPads or phones and other devices home. So as difficult as it was to do Aqua this time, they say we're going to have live Aqua in Pasadena in December. So we can all look forward to that. Okie dokie, future director meetings. Boy, there's a whole bunch of them. May 20th. Oh gosh, that's tomorrow. Mongo Pipeline Commission, Vice President Flowen, that's you. Mojave Water Agency meeting, May 27th, that's me. Special Board of Directors Budget Workshop, that's everybody on May 27th at 1 p.m. We do have that Legislative and Public Information Committee on June 2nd, that's at 9 a.m. It's myself, Director Jarlsberg and Kathleen. The Mojave Water Agency Technical Advisory Committee, the next day, June 3rd, that is me. The Finance Committee meeting, June 9th, 9 a.m., that's myself and Vice President Flowen. The Water Resources and Operations Committee meets just later that morning on June 9th. That's Director Reynolds and Director Doolittle. Mojave Water Agency Board of Directors meeting, June 10th, Director Doolittle. And it looks like we are not having a Board of Directors meeting on June 2nd. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
Correct.
Once we get comments from the board on the workshop, if we have to make any adjustments, I'll give Ant enough time to push that to the next meeting. So.
Okay. Okay. If I have nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Quick question.
Better be quick.
Yeah, I know the budget workshop. I thought I heard that it might be of some people in person and some people online. Is that possible? I mean, is that what?
Beverly's working on that right now too. So
okay. All right.
Really? We could actually be in person?
I don't think so. Wait a minute, COVID queen here. No, I don't think so.
HR manager said no, so.
All right.
It was worth asking.
Tomorrow, OSHA is releasing some amendment to the emergency protocols, so we'll learn a lot more about what happens.
Okay. And I think I did speak with Director Ban. General Manager Ban and Vice President Flowen and I, we're part of the kind of the COVID committee, and looking ahead to Governor lifting mask mandate, opening us up more on June 15th. I think we're going to try to schedule in something there in the week before June 15th to see if, like you say, any new things coming through for HR, anything we need to know, what should we do? We have not been able in this county to move out of the orange tier. So we're, who knows what the 15th might look like.
President Unger, we're looking at June 7th.
Oh, thank you for the COVID.
Yes.
Anytime?
9 a.m., 10 a.m.
How about 10?
Vice President Flowen?
Does that sound good for you, Tom? A COVID meeting on Monday, June 7th at 10 a.m.?
Checking the calendar. Yeah, there's nothing. I've got nothing on that day.
If that's good for Mark, then that's good for us.
Okay.
Okie dokie.
I'll send you something next week.
Thank you. I think we're all caught up now. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye?
Aye. Aye and bye.
Aye, bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night.
Night, everybody.
You too.
Thank you.